Welcome to MoveMyBiz.com's webinar series, Ask the Experts, where various office relocation industry leaders share their insights, stories, and experiences. In this edition, we have Matt Watson of Apex Facility Resources. Matt is the owner and VP of Development at Apex Facility Resources, and he has 20 years of industry experience.
All right.
Okay. Without any further ado, it's Matt Watson from Apex Facility Resources out of Seattle.
Welcome, everybody. So I'm kind of at the end. Just a quick review. Can't emphasize enough to partner up or to develop that workspace strategy early in the game so that the ripple effect isn't creating problems midway or partway through the game. In other words, you know, even starting before the leasing and broker shows up, knowing what kind of organizational, you're trying to, what kind of new space plan you're trying to create to support your organization to grow into the future. And, that whole concept of the Moore's Law, where the technology is obsolete and every 18 months, it's getting to be true for office space too. No sooner than do we move somebody into a space than 2 years we're finding them trying to change that space to accommodate new work styles that teams are asking for. Then defining the scope. Yeah.
Yeah, but before you move on, and I think that it's important, one of the things that I learned from talking with Matt over the last week or so is that, you're not really moving the office. You're really, developing a workplace. And I think that that's important, that implies that this is not just an office. This is a place where you work. It's a place of productivity. It really is a capital investment. And I think that by really thinking about this and allowing yourself the time to think about it, that the way that the space is designed can have a major impact on the productivity. So I think that's a good, way for our readers to think about it. You're not moving your office. You're really designing a workplace. And I think that's important. So
and the workspace itself, the lease you pay is typically, in most cases, the second highest expense or fixed cost of your organization. So it's baffling to me why people don't spend enough time really thinking about and creating this first step, because it was a result of not doing that huge financial mistakes are made. Defining the scope, of course, goes back to understanding the schedule, working with the physical aspect of it. What do you need as far as what do you need to move, what stays, what needs to be liquidated, what needs to be, removed. Also, the additional services that are needed. If you don't have a data or an IT in-house, then obviously you're relying on your vendor for that. But voice and data cabling, infrastructure, installation, all the different services that go along. If you need packing, movers are all too happy to come in and pack, but we just have to define what needs to be packed so that they can include that, not having that be a surprise. And then look again for those opportunities in your team to now develop a team internally and then externally. And then again, I can't emphasize enough that look for the integrators. We believe firmly that there are great integrators, and those integrators might be looking like phone companies that integrate data cable installation as part of what they do, or commercial furniture interiors companies that sometimes do moving. We consider ourselves a services business that actually sells furniture and installs cabling, but ultimately at the core of it is the project management solutions and the services that we have to execute on, because if we don't, we know it's a disaster. And then, at the back, at the forefront and then throughout is communication, making sure that we enroll everybody and give them the what's in it for them, and also understand the drivers of the move. And I have organizations, clients of mine, who will take the entire company and they'll take 70 or 100 people and bus them to the new space and show them what's going on, or set up a webcam. Larry, we've seen that too, where people can go online and watch the development and build out of the space and give everybody an opportunity to be part of it. That's, I think, a really important aspect of the move. It's a human process, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then at the back end, there's not enough discussion on it, but what becomes a huge headache is not realizing that the space you're in now needs to be turned over to the landlord or given back to the building owner. And what happens there is much more dramatic than turning over an apartment when you move out of it, or that sort of thing. And so what happens is there's typically in the lease requirements for cable removal today, patching or light patch and paint, some types carpet repair, ceiling repair. Those are the things to identify early on when you're dealing with your landlord, so that you have a clear understanding and it isn't an ugly surprise of even $5, $10, and even $20,000 at the end of the moving process to pay again. And those are oftentimes the ugly surprises. Oh, I didn't realize we had to pull out, 1,000 cable lines. That's
right.
Stuff pops up on people. So it's important to understand the back end as well as the front end and try to integrate the two together.
Cool. Well, Matt, thank you very, very much. We've got a great opportunity here. I've known Matt for about 5 years. He truly is an expert at this process. Does anyone have any questions for Matt?
Hey, great question. There's a number of vendors out there that will actually pick them up for free. And I don't have the vendors off the top. My project managers have those lists, but there are vendors out there now who, depending on the number you have and where you're located, in Seattle here we have a number of different firms that will literally come to our warehouse or come to the office space and remove for free computers and technology.
Yeah. So I have one question here. Sustainable goals. Maybe you could elaborate on that, the person that asked about sustainable goals.
Yeah, sustainability has become, almost more cultural of the workspace, or the reasons to kind of move towards the modern, or what we call the distributed work environment. Sustainability is a big part of it for a number of reasons. One, people are leveraging less space to work for more people. In other words, in the last 5 years alone, we have seen the square footage per person drop over 50%. And what that means is oftentimes not just how the workspaces are developed, using less furniture, number one, more sustainable, less stuff built, right? Less energy to build, less waste from building. But it also means that you're finding, on the average, across all industries, there's an average of 2.3 people for every one desk, where in the old days it was a strict 1-to-1 ratio. So people are leveraging their space through using technology and workspace policy and employee training to actually leverage more employees in less space than ever before. So those are just a few of the sustainable goals that organizations have, and the footprint that space puts off is eventually, in our opinion, going to be taxed. In other words, number one energy use in the world comes from buildings, the commercial buildings of the world, and we're seeing we're seeing the opportunity and the possibility. It's very real with our new administration coming back, that there could be, by the time this second term is over, what we call a tax on the carbon footprint. And the first place they're going to target is large commercial office buildings, and they're going to try to tax those buildings for energy use. And the buildings will have no choice but to pass those along as part of what they call triple nets, those fees and janitorial and building maintenance and all those things. They'll add it to on top of the square footage cost of a lease. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. So this one attendee is talking about sustainability in the lease surrender process. In other words, getting rid of the stuff. I guess we're talking about getting rid of the
furniture,
copper and the furniture, and you've got a lot of material once they, if you have to gut the space.
Yeah. And so what happens is, it's more around the fixed furniture and fixtures that we see the greatest waste. And we also are, we're up in the Seattle area, which is kind of like, in the corner of the universe, where, we're 1,200 miles away from LA, 800 miles away from San Francisco, 2,000 miles away from Chicago. So, which means that we don't have big populations of furniture to sell or liquidate the furniture for reuse. So it's a real tough strategy up here, trying to find ways to sustainably or environmentally friendly ways of getting rid of furniture. And what we have found is One, we have a commercial furniture division which liquidates and literally not just liquidates, but donates a lot of furniture to nonprofits. But today's nonprofits are sitting in nicer furniture than many of us are having in our offices because there's been so much donation. So the challenge we find is really there's really not a huge market for the legacy designs, the tall panels that are coming out of people's offices today, or the really big desktops that aren't necessary anymore because we're all working on flat screens and laptops. So the challenge is even the file cabinets we're sending to metal liquidation because we can't sell file cabinets anymore. People don't need it. With Dropbox and the cloud and storage capabilities, people don't need, they have virtual file cabinets now. So it's a real interesting time, and it's a challenge. And trying to partner with, I would say, several movers will have figured out a good strategy, but ask your mover and have them define how this is going to happen, because most movers will just literally throw it in the trash. And most commercial furniture companies don't include a used solution, meaning an end-to-end solution. They just want to sell you new. So this is a big hole in the game, and it's tough.
Yeah. Well, good. Any other questions? Last chance, going once, twice. Okay. Well, Matt, thank you very, very much for taking time out of your busy day. We really appreciate it. This was really a great presentation. I always learn stuff when I talk to you. We appreciate it. You can reach Matt at apexfacility.com. And my name is Larry Dillon. You can reach me at larry@movemybiz.com. If there's any other questions that you have that you think of after you get offline, please feel free to email us, and we will get you the answers that you need. So, Matt, thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. It's been my pleasure.
You have just watched Part 3 of 3 of MoveMyBiz.com's Ask the Expert webinar series with Matt Watson of Apex Facility Resources. Go to MoveMyBiz.com for more webinars, videos, articles, checklists, timelines, and everything else for your office relocation.